And now it is time for episode 5 of the deep dive into Novatech. So this is the basically Novatech FX is a platform that you can't talk about without breaking it up into episodes because there's a lot to it, right? This platform lasted a long time. It pulled a lot of people in. It was going on for literally years. And like we said on the last episode, it made a lot of people a lot of money. So when we started this out with episode 1, we talked about the pre-Novatech era with a company called what was it? A company called ASL Mining or something like, I forget the name of it, ALS Mining, something like that. That is where Cynthia and Eddie Pettion first made a name for themselves in the crypto marketing sphere. That's where they first became known. And they received publicity before Novatech even became a thing. Episode 2, we got into the very beginnings of Novatech, right? Episode 3, we talked about the launch. We talked about the pandemic, that pandemic that we're not supposed to talk about on YouTube. We talked about that and how it related to the launch. And then in episode 4 last week, we talked about the in-between time and the fact that people really did, if they played their cards right, they really did make a lot of money. And that has to be understood, that there were winners, right? I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the truth. There were people that made a lot during that 3-year period before they had trouble. Right? And today we are getting into episode 5, where I'm going to cover the very first cease and desist order. And this is the first order, and this is the only cease and desist order that Novatech ever actually publicly responded to. Right. And so we're going to get into both. And, just the very beginning. Now, this happened in August of 2022. Now, this is the very beginning of trouble for Novatech. Remember, all those previous years, they had just been building, they had been growing. And then we had the phenomenon of the COVID-19, the pandemic, and the brotherhood and sisterhood of the church. And those two things came together to blow up Novatech like nobody's business. I mean, blow it out of the water. It got huge, right? We also covered the fact that Cynthia had not started calling herself a reverend until Novatech started, right? Before, she was not the reverend CEO. She became the self-proclaimed reverend CEO when she started Novatech. And now we're getting to August of 2022. And in August of 2022, Novatech received their first cease and desist order, and it actually came from Russia. Okay, it actually came from Russia. Now, I don't know if there's a way to use Google Translate. Oh, here we go. I'm trying to use Google Translate. Here we go. All right. Now, this is from Russia, guys. So this is actually a notice from the Bank of Russia. I'm using Google Translate on it, and I'm going to give you the link right here in the chat. Okay, so everything that I talk about on here, I bring documentation, and I give you the evidence to actually back up what I'm saying, right? So you don't just have to take it from me. On every episode, you'll see that I put the evidentiary documents in the chat. So you actually have the links to the real documents to look at what happened. And this is the cease and desist order. This came out in August of 2022. This was the first order. This was the first sign of trouble in Novatech. Let me ask you a question. If you would have withdrawn your principal from Novatech in August of 2022, would you have been able to? Oh, yes, you would have. You could have gotten everything out, right? And you would have been good to go. Now, I didn't withdraw during the first cease and desist order. My posture and my stance was, it's coming from the Bank of Russia. Who cares what Russia thinks? That was my reaction to this, right? I'm just being completely transparent with you. That was my reaction when they got a cease and desist order from the Bank of Russia. I didn't care, right? I didn't see it as a threat. I saw it as kind of a who cares moment type thing. Like, it's Russia. Of course, who cares? Russia's like basically a communist country. All right, here we go. This is from the Bank of Russia. Countering unfair practices. This is the list of entities with detected signs of illegal activities in the financial market. NOVATECHFX.com. Once again, countering unfair practices. This is a list of entities with detected signs of illegal activities in the financial market. And then right there, you have NOVATECHFX.com. Name, service mark, brand, and other means of identification, NOVATECHFX.com. Signs detected by the Bank of Russia. Signs of illegal professional securities market participant. Website, NOVATECHFX.com, my.novatechfx.io. Right? And this actually came out in August, okay, of 2022. This is from the Bank of Russia, and they give the address. They also have a link to the investor relations, public Russian holidays. Pretty much to the point, right? It's a warning, right? A fraud warning, an illegal operation warning, right? Given by the Bank of Russia. And this was the first sign of trouble in paradise. They received a securities fraud warning from Russia, right? Novatech FX has received a securities fraud warning from the Central Bank of Russia, right? As per the website that I just read to you, Novatech FX exhibits signs of an illegal professional participant in the securities market. Guys, this is the equivalent of a securities fraud warning in other jurisdictions. Novatech FX is a Forex themed platform, right? It is run from the US by U.S. nationals Eddie and Cynthia Pettion, right? Here we are again in another public article about the Pettions. The Pettions launched Novatech FX after AWS mining. There it is, not ALS, ASL. AWS mining, which collapsed in 2019. All right. Also, guys, SimilarWeb currently reported at the time the top sources of traffic to Novatech FX was 63% in the US, 7% in Canada, and 7% in South Africa. Now, it should be known that neither Novatech FX nor the Pettions were registered with the SEC or CFTC at the time, right? And like I said at the start, right, of this episode, right, we're in episode 5 right now. This is the first fraud warning, the first securities fraud warning that Novatech got. It came from the Bank of Russia, and as we said at the beginning, this was the first and only warning that Novatech actually kind of sort of responded to, right? And they did. They made a response, right? And this is the only time they did that, because once the other fraud warnings started coming in, once the cease and desist orders come in, Novatech went pretty much radio silent, until they actually, and they never mentioned the orders either. They just said, hey, we're going to stop paying. We're going to stop paying, basically, is what they said, right? Because of this whole scenario. Now, I always said, right, and you can go back to you can go back to my my repertoire of content at any time, because it's all in my videos. I don't take my videos down here on this channel. And I always said that they should have gotten out front with this and talked about it, and then they wouldn't have had this run on the bank. But we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We are going to talk about the Novatech run on the bank. We're going to talk about the collapse. We're going to talk about how we're going to cover everything, right? This is only episode 5. And this is a deep dive, an episodic deep dive into what happened, what really happened, the truth of Novatech, right? And you deserve to know the truth, right? You deserve to know what actually happened. You can make up your own mind as to what you think when it comes to like opinions and different things, but you deserve to know the facts. You deserve to know the truth. And this is only episode 5, right? Now, as it can be said, and as it should be known at this time, right? The time of this recording is 1/19/2024, that the Pedians have not responded, nor have their lawyers responded to any of the court proceedings that have been happening in Canada. And so what's going to happen? They're going to get, judgments in absentia, right? Absentia means you're not there, right? And so the judge will make a judgment in absentia, right? It means you didn't show up to the hearing. And so you're going to get a judgment against you, an absentia judgment. That's what's going to happen. But they also have legal problems here in the United States. And those are going to be another story. Are they going to show up for that one? That's yet to be seen. Now, after the fraud warning from Russia, Novatech, one of their top investors, claimed that the FBI audited and approved Novatech. Do you guys remember this? Maybe you do now that I reminded you and now that I refreshed your memory. And this was back in October, right? This was before some of the other fraud warnings hit. Back in October of 2022, Novatech FX investor claims FBI audited and approved Novatech. They claimed that the FBI actually audited them. All right. Now, I will try to provide you links. We don't know how many of these videos are still here and how many of these videos have been actually taken down by Novatech at this point. But be that as that may, there's the link to the video. You guys can find that in my chat, right? If you're watching this live, just stay on with me live and then go look at the documents later. But then for anybody who's actually watching this outside of the live broadcast, you can find those documents in the chat. Okay. And so I gave you a link right there to this actual video that this article is speaking about. That way you can see everything that I'm saying for yourself. See, I don't just provide sauce when it comes to this, but in this particular episode series that I'm doing on Novatech, I actually provide documentation and as well as video documentation of what I'm talking about from the articles here. Okay, no one person can put all this stuff together, guys. I mean, nobody else is putting it all together for you and giving you the documents and giving you everything that you need, right? That this is going to be the definitive, right? This is going to be the definitive Novatech deep dive on the internet, right? That nobody else is giving to you. Novatech FX investors are claiming that the FBI audited and approved the suspected Ponzi scheme. CEO Cynthia Petion has endorsed the claim, affirming she personally received a copy of the 700-page audit. What do you think, guys? Do you believe that? What do you think, right? Drop me a comment. Let me know if you believe that. She said she received a copy of the 700-page audit. The Novatech FX FBI audit claim was made actually on September 22nd on the Compounding for Wealth webinar, right? The webinar was hosted by a Novatech FX investor named Heather Golden Girl, and we'll just call her Golden Girl. I put a link to the webinar in the description or in the chat, right? So you guys can actually watch the webinar where the claim was made. For context on the Novatech FX FBI audit claim, we have to begin with another advocate for Novatech, right? And this person said at a Q&A, this person claimed that he and others joined Novatech FX after another program that they were in collapsed. And there's a quote from the promoter. He said, "We're all relatively new to the Novatech family. We're very excited to be here. We came from a platform where a number of our members were doing well, but they went through some challenges," right? And the platform that he was referring to is Hyperfund and Hyperverse, right? Some of you guys know who I'm talking about there. It was a crypto winter, and we were like, what are we going to do? How can we help our teams? And when we started doing our due diligence with the Satoshi show several months ago, they came up and said, listen, guys, I think this is it. And they were talking about Novatech. We just took it on faith. We jumped in and we didn't look back. And that's something that sure, you can do that, but don't mortgage your house, don't sell your cars, right? Don't take your rent money to the casino on faith. Don't do that, guys. Just don't. It's just a bad idea. So they said that, hey, we just took it on faith. We jumped in and we didn't look back, right? The Satoshi show, is run by people who look for these types of platforms in the market, guys. And they called themselves the TSS Golden Team of Novatech. All right. Now, back to what the video said that I shared in the link. Cynthia, and this is a direct quote from the video. Cynthia, that's the group that had an FBI investigator do a 700-page report. Remember, I sent that to you. Cynthia says, yes, I wasn't going to read that. I thought, and then she mumbled something. Report when you sent it to me, hey, we're not a scam. And the bottom line is that the whole story, after 700 pages, the FBI investigator said this is a good company to move forward with. Have you ever heard an FBI investigator saying that something's a good company to move forward with? The FBI thinks we're all criminals. The FBI isn't going to recommend a company. The only company the FBI is going to recommend is the FBI. Right? The FBI, they're not even cool with the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. They have interdepartmental drama. One branch of the government can't get along with the other branch. You think the FBI is going to recommend a company? Can I get some of that crack that you're smoking? Because it must be pretty freaking good. So they're saying that this FBI person actually said this is a good company to move forward with. Okay, so where's the report? Right? That's the question. Here's what Cynthia said. We're going to have to stop saying that about the report because now everybody's going to ask for that report. I don't have it. Don't come looking for the report. I burned it. After I read the bottom line, I was like, well, thank you for telling me what I already know. And then she went on and burned a supposed report from the FBI stating that Novatech was a great company. Shout out to you, Darren. Right? She burned it. Right? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I mean, it's just kind of like if an FBI really did a report on your company and it was 700 pages long and they recommended your company, guys, would you burn that report? I'd be putting that thing on my freaking wall. I'll hit a couple of the chats real quick. Kenny says Cynthia scammed us. Kevin said trading channel is the sauce, bro. I've been trading in pocket option. I'm really happy to hear that, brother. I know that you've had some bumps in the road. We all have in this space. Just be careful. Okay, make sure that you're going along with the sauce that I'm giving you on the channel. Don't over leverage yourself, and you're going to do fine. Blue Sky says, drum roll, the adventures of pre and post Novatech. Exactly. And then I shared the warning, the fraud list, and I shared the YouTube video. Darren said, have the Pettyons or the attorneys made any court hearings yet? No, they haven't come to any of the hearings. Darren said the FBI audit, the preacher lady burned. Yeah, that's exactly what we were just talking about. Vijay Maya says, hey, Yvonne, thoughts on Project 25 is supposed to come back next Friday. I actually did give my thoughts on that. So please rewatch this live broadcast, right? But the bottom line is don't count on it. Okay. Blue Sky, I'm very familiar with people using the Lord's name to make themselves seem trustworthy. Some people are honest and they don't mention that they're a minister. If you're honest, then you just are. Yeah. So here's what I've come to see when it comes to that, Blue Sky, is that people who have actual ministries don't need to say that they're a minister. It's evident, right? It's just evident in their life. If somebody has a quote unquote healing ministry, then there's going to be evidence. People are going to have a healing, and you're not going to have to say, hey, I'm a healing minister. There's going to be evidence because people will say, hey, this person was with me and we prayed and I received a healing, right? Or if somebody has like a music ministry, they don't need to go out and say it. You can see it. Right. So I agree. Right. You don't need to go out. I don't think people really should even be doing that. Oh, I'm a prophet of the Lord. Really? DeFi ROI King says C12 lasted way longer. I'm not sure exactly which one you're referring to, though, bro. C12 lasted 3 months. It definitely did not last longer than Novatech, which is what we're talking about right now. All right. Novatech FX solicits investments in cryptocurrency on the promise of a weekly passive return. I will take issue with that statement. It wasn't really a promise. They never really promised it, right? Because they always said that past results don't necessitate future results, right? So I'm not going to disagree with you there on that they made a promise. I don't think they made a promise. Some people surely took it that way. I'll give you that. Then they also had an MLM compensation plan, which, yes, it financially incentivized investor recruitment. It absolutely did. And it was one of the most lucrative and generous compensation plans that I've ever seen in the space. Yeah, that the FBI is hireable to do an audit is comical in and of itself. That the FBI would rubber stamp any company is BS, frankly. To date, Russia is the only country to have publicly taken action against Novatech FX, and that was of October 13th, 2022. All right. So to date, at the point where that article came out, Russia was the only company to have publicly taken action against Novatech FX. Novatech is run from the U.S. by Cynthia and Eddie Petian, who are believed to primarily reside in Russia at the time. Okay. Now, on that webinar, you had a lot of the team leaders from Novatech. I'm not going to go over everybody's name, right? They were directors, senior executives, junior executives, junior directors, right? And then at that point, still 68% of the people coming to the Novatech website were from the U.S. You had 8% from the Bahamas, 7% from South Africa, and at that time, 4% from Canada. No, there were victims from Hyperverse or people who lost out in Hyperverse. I hate the word victim. That I just take issue with that because at the end of the day, we all know what we're doing with our own money. So don't call me a victim. If I put my money into something and I lose my money, please don't call me a victim. I'm not a victim. All right. I'm a crypto trader. You win some, you lose some. But don't call me a victim. So people were funneled in from Hyperverse, sure. Right. Also, AWS mining, sure. Also, there was a lot of recruitment in the church, and there was the whole, COVID-19 that happened and the pandemic, and that also added to the recruitment because people were out of a job. So, despite offering a weekly passive return to primarily U.S. residents, purportedly generating Forex trading, neither Novatech FX nor Cynthia nor Eddie ever registered with the SEC or the CFTC, right? And what I'll say to that is that they didn't really need to because everything that they were doing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And at that time, you didn't have to register with the SEC, right? Or the CFTC. Now, the SEC and the CFTC, they've been fighting crypto for years, right? They hate it. Can't stand it. They think that it's all just a bunch of criminals. Well, they think everybody's a criminal. That's their job to think everybody's a criminal, right? They're regulators. Their job literally is to think that everybody's a criminal.